KBLA Talk 1580. Yes, indeed, it's time for our daily deep dive and our constant living up on our people. That's one of our jobs right here, and I'm so happy to do it. Comes naturally. It's a Talking Point Tuesday, and one thing I just want to mention quickly before we go into our daily deep dive, the Don't Say Gay bill has been signed into law by Ron DeSantis. It's the law of the land there in Florida. And I just, I stand in solidarity with my gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, non-binary, questioning, queer, plus brothers and sisters. I hate that you have to deal with this crazy backlash. And next Tuesday, I got some talking points about that because the spin on this is insane. But hopefully what's going to end up happening is some advancement in rights due to this backlash. So happy to welcome into the space today a longtime community activist. He is a board member of Downtown Crenshaw. He's been called a visionary by the LA Times, recognized as one of LA's 100 most influential African Americans by the Wave newspapers, and he is constantly innovating in the space as we seek to buy the block. Founder, executive director of the nonprofit Crenshaw Subway Coalition. I'm talking about Damien Goodmon. Good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. It is always good to be with you, sister.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. I always try to, at least once an hour, not more, say what's good. So let me ask you that first. What's good? Share a victory or something that you're encouraged by right now.
Well, I'm encouraged that we got some rain yesterday.
Oh, you're really reaching up.
I mean, the heavens opened up and we got some much-needed rain because as much as I love living in Los Angeles in California, 80 degrees in March is not what I signed up for, and I see it all in the context. You mentioned Crenshaw Subway Coalition. That goes back to Fix Expo. I see this all in the context of environmental justice and the challenges that we are going to face as a community, as Black people across the world with climate catastrophe approaching. So, I'm going to appreciate that rain. I'm going to appreciate that clearing. I'm going to appreciate, coming down Angeles Vista with the clear skies and maybe the mountains are snow-capped. I don't know if they are. I'm going to find out.
Well, the rain is supposed to be over today, but it is good. We need it. It's ironic that we're hearing now that we're going to start to see some serious water restrictions because apparently we've been wasting water during this drought. So, and I think you're right. There's so much to keep track of that sometimes we don't really focus on the climate emergency, but everything else becomes moot at a certain point if we don't have a livable planet.
Yeah. I mean, it's heavy on most people's brains. It's funny because a lot of people are suggesting, what would you be doing if you weren't focused on this amazing project that is Downtown Crenshaw and Liberty Ecosystem? I would be working on climate emergency. I mean, it's the forefront. It will soon be at the forefront of everyone's brain. And I don't want to depress people, but it's got to be taken more seriously. If you think $7 gas is bad, just wait until, we start seeing a whole lot of things roll on this that increase the cost of just the milk or water or any number of things on top of all the other things that will be happening throughout the planet, displacing millions of people in America and across the globe. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's real. It's already happening. But let's talk about let's define what Liberty Ecosystem is. I know you've done it before on this show, but we always have new members of our KBLA delegation define Downtown Crenshaw at this point. I don't want to say post-mall, but I know you're going to say it's not over with the mall.
Oh, it's far from over, especially with all these sanctions on Russian oligarchs, but we'll get into that. So, one of the main things that I think we have always been seeking as a community is self-determination. Whether Crenshaw was a community by a man, Crenshaw, we just got to put it out there, and a man, we both live in Leimert, both of whom didn't want to have black people living where we are right now, or today where we're being prevented from living in comfortably our community, or new people who left, went away to school, moved out of town, coming back in because of the housing prices being so high. We, as black people in America, long struggled to find a place that we could comfortably call our own, that was accessible, right? And so I think, especially in 2017, as the Crenshaw Subway Coalition, continuing our amazing work on transit justice, environmental justice, against racial inequality in all its forms, began to see this thing called gentrification, this push out, price out of people in the community, we began saying as an organization, we needed to be focused, needed to add to our advocacy actually being in the process of taking land off the speculative real estate market to put it into community control, right? Not talking about me buying it, not talking about, Brother Keeley buying it, or Nikki O'Cook or Paul Yelder, all board members are a part of this ecosystem, but saying, how do we collectively own our space and be more, frankly, African-centered in our economics, right? Where we are thinking about collectively achieving wealth, where we are thinking about collectively how we struggle or succeed. And so about 2017-18, you could see us become a little bit more intentionally focused on gentrification, resisting gentrification through advocacy and promoting this thing called community wealth building, also known as the solidarity economy. And then in about 2018, after a major campaign, we got real intentional. We said, how can we take land off the speculative market with home prices at that time? You were looking at stuff in Leimert Park going for $600,000 on the low end. Now, good luck finding something at $800,000 on the low end. It's over $1 million. How do we make these spaces that black people only moved in because we could afford them at the time become accessible, remain accessible? How do we keep rent affordable to our elders, to folk who are in Section 8, who are equally as important to our community as those that are on that hill looking at that beautiful view with the clear sky right now? So we did that work and said, I think there are ways in which we can collectively come together, build this thing known as a community land trust, identify ways in which we can pool our dollars, and at the same time draw down the many dollars that are necessary for us to buy not just the block, but the community, and put it in a community control. So we didn't know it at that time, but we were building something called the LibertyEco system. We were thinking about the different formal structures and institutions that needed to collectively come together so that we could achieve this beautiful vision that has been with us definitely since the 60s, but much longer than that, this beautiful vision of self-determination in the heart of Black LA. And so we have many amazing things we've been doing.
All right, Damien Goodmon, we'll go through what all those amazing things are. When we come forward, I want to let the delegation know there are opportunities here for you to get involved if you're trying to pick your battle. Now's a good time. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
Courage is contagious. We're KBLA Talk 1580. Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
We're talking with Damien Goodmon, downtowncrenshaw.com, where you can find out more. But Damien, you were talking about the LibertyEco system and some of the projects that fall under that. You said we didn't know it at the time. That's what you were building. But here are some of the offshoots of that. So let's keep that momentum going.
Absolutely. And I think we formalized the building of one of the structures, one of the community land trusts, about 6 months before this amazing campaign that Downtown Crenshaw lifted up. It was almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in exactly a month, where we all found out publicly, or was disclosed publicly, that the Crenshaw Mall was to be sold to the people who are gentrifying the heck out of West Adams right now. All that change on Adams Boulevard you see right now, SCIM Group. They've done a number in many communities, and they work for the community. And they had a plan for the mall that didn't involve asking us what we wanted or anything. And so we rallied behind this touch point, right? Planted our flag saying this mall will be under community control. We're not just going to give it up because it means so much to us. And said not only is it going to be on a community control, this can be a project for healing our community, for addressing what we want, not for addressing what other folk want. So that's a historic campaign, man. I want to lift up and thank everybody who has been part of this coalition for nearly 2 years, raising tens of millions of dollars. People starting with people putting in their $5 to become members, over 2,700 members over 2 years. But ultimately, again, that campaign was about self-determination, saying we have a right to control our commercial spaces, biggest commercial space in Black Los Angeles. And I think in so many respects, we were able to use what we had been learning and sharing internally and in some smaller community meetings and take it to a whole nother level. And proved in so many respects that if you offer the people, if the people's desire of a community-controlled space is offered, more people will surround it with their resources, the time, talent, and treasure. And so, that's amazing. There's a lot of work continue to do. Ultimately, after stopping 2 Trump-affiliated developers from buying the mall, they got us on the third one, bringing in this guy who's backed by a Soviet-born oligarch who's on Putin's list. We can talk about that. We got all kind of things we're working on, and we're going to bring that mall into community control. But at the same time, that project was part of this bigger ecosystem. It was one major project. We always said we wanted to buy the mall, stabilize it, redevelop it with the community, but we also wanted to see the community around the mall come under community control at the same time. It's not good enough just to have those 40 acres, as important as they are, if the rest of South Central, the rest of the Crenshaw community ends up being gentrified. And so that's been so much of the work that we've been kind of focusing in on since August. It's like, okay, so we're going to have a longer-term struggle with the mall to pull it from this guy, Len Blavatnik. He's the Soviet-born oligarch. And David Schwartzman, he's the completely unqualified man who has said some things about Black people, women that we need not repeat on LA's Black Talk radio station. But we're going to continue that struggle. But at the same time, we're going to buy some land around our community and be part of this beautiful process of.
Yeah, well, I'm here for that, Damien, because I'm, you and I have had this conversation probably 10 times where I'm like, forget the mall. Let's get the houses. Let's get the apartment buildings. Let's get the business buildings because, and I understand, your vision of mall is different than my vision of mall, but I'm just like, a mall is a dying concept. We need housing. We need to, when Nipsey Hussle, we're coming up on the anniversary of his death this week on Thursday, we need to buy the block. And you've said all along that we don't have to choose. And it sounds like you're putting that into motion.
Both and. Now, it was Sister Melina Melina Abdullah, one of the major leaders in our community, who were at the mall during one action. She said, everybody knows buying a mall is a horrible effing investment. We're not buying a mall. We're buying our space. We're buying our right.
Yeah, I understand that, but it is actually a mall. What you do with it could be different, but right now it's a mall, and malls are, anyway.
They're dying.
Yeah, they're dying.
And
I know you're reinventing it. You're reimagining the mall.
And we should point out to people, right, this is not just a Crenshaw piece. This is an American piece. This is the Amazonian or the Amazon creation or Amazonization, I forget what they use, of our retail economy, where it is now, and definitely accelerated during the pandemic as we've become accustomed to DoorDash and Postmates and everything else. We're accustomed to doing our shopping on our phone, delivered to our door, as opposed to going out, right? And so there's a whole lot of malls in Los Angeles just by themselves who are being reimagined. I just want to remind people of that. And I also want to just say, there are very few, because we've done it. We've been knocking the doors within the mall. There are very few Black-owned businesses in the mall. Enough that we all can still patronize them.
Honestly, there are very few businesses in the mall right now. It seems like it's just dying.
Right, and that's happening. So again, I wanted people, because there's these tensions in this community. Well, just let them do what they want so they can build a beautiful mall. No, that's not happening almost anywhere. You can go into much more affluent, whiter communities in all parts of LA, in the Valley, in the South Bay, and see malls in a similar condition. And that's, again, a product of this global economy, this total, what they call in tech, disruption and realignment of retail, right? And so everyone who was buying the mall or seeking to buy the mall wasn't buying 40 acres to buy a mall. They were buying it to redevelop the mall. And that, again, gets to whether this redevelopment is going to be just another leg in a horrible chapter of displacement and replacement of Black people for more affluent, not Black people, or whether it, again, is going to be a process of uplift and healing of a community, right? But to the point, yes, it was always about, and Sister, 100%, buying apartment buildings, buying smaller commercial buildings, buying homes around it. We were doing that at the same time. I like to say that the mall was the star quarterback, and that those smaller acquisitions were they were the offensive linemen for the people who know football. They weren't getting the headlines. Nobody was interviewing them after the game, but we were doing that at the same time, largely through resources that came through the LA County Board of Supervisors, and Holly Mitchell has been a strong supporter of Community Land Trust since the beginning. There was a pilot project that came through that we fought for at the same time we were fighting for the mall. And so we had bought two apartment buildings within our community at the same time. And now, and I guess this is the good news. Are we going to commercial break, or should I do it now, sister?
Do it now. We got time. I know you're used to my other show, but we got time.
I can sit back on this one.
Yep.
Other shows, I was like, I was doing everything in 7-second talking points. No.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have, we've reallocated some of the money, not all of it, not anywhere close to all of it, towards buying some of the homes. We're bidding on some of the apartment buildings that are in our very Crenshaw community. We have already bought some of them. I think we've gone from now 2 to 6 different structures that we own. And we're going to close this week. And this is breaking news, man. We're going to. I'm breaking it on Dominique DiPrima's talk show.
Yes!
On the only Black owned talk radio station in Los Angeles. We have come to agreement, and we are going to close this week on the historic Total Experience site, right there in our Africa town. A place. I'm too young. I turn 40 next month. But I hear, I hear that was the spot. I hear that was our place on the West Coast, and I think so many of us were devastated.
Okay, well, tell me where that is, because I honestly, I'm sure I was in the Bay, or actually, I'm actually 26, so I really don't know, or something. But I don't know exactly where that spot is. Where is that?
So the Total Experience is right there at the intersection. The site of the former Total Experience is right there at the intersection of 43rd Place and Crenshaw Boulevard, directly adjacent or directly across the street from Leimert Park Village Plaza.
Okay, I know where that is. Yeah, that's dope. It's like a, what is it going to be? I mean, what are you going to do with it? Do you know?
So this is the most important part. So again, the site was the space of the Total Experience. Apparently, there were all kind of parties. I'm sure your listeners were part of some of that went down, and was a space that lots of people came to. Lots of major artists, Black artists across America came through. It was a place of pride for the community, right? And it turned into something that ended up being basically a warehouse for goods. And about a year ago, I think it was, there was a fire that took place that took it to the ground. And right now it's a completely, the buildings no longer exist. And so we are in partnership with a mission-aligned, community-based developer who that has experience and that we are working with on other pieces, and the organization has deep roots within our community. Several members of our community have been actually board members and board chairs of it, to build a space that will be a mixed-use project that has ground floor retail and upper-level housing that is affordable to us.
Now, all of
creating that space.
I mean, that's an amazing vision. So, retail space that can be held by Black businesses and housing. All of these 6 structures that you mentioned, they're owned by the land trust, right? A collective.
The projects that we own right now, including single-family homes that are in our community that we're going to turn into. We took them away from speculators and those who would have taken them and flipped them, taken the $600,000 house and turned it into a $1.2 million house. We've already acquired them, and we're going to turn them into housing that we can afford. And in this case, with the Total Experience site, it's a vacant spot. It's a vacant property right now. We're going to acquire it and build the housing that our community can afford, and build the commercial space for mission-aligned, community-based businesses. It's going to be a beautiful process. And I think that's the most important piece about this, right? We get all hung up on, because society tells us to do this, and it's important, on the design of buildings and whether we like it or not. But the most important element of this whole thing will be us working collectively with the community, with our partners at Phoenix Community Housing.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing Black architects and contractors that we're talking to right now, who we hope will join in this amazing process, so that we can show them how real community-driven development can take place.
Right. So technically these are Black-owned because they're owned by the collective, right? I mean, it's not something that some developer or somebody can swoop in and take from you.
Exactly. I mean, it's about, and so this is the key difference, sister. You know, Barbara Keeley, who is the chair of the Community Land Trust, says this all the time. More so than anything else you will hear from him about the community land trust. This is about community building. This is about community control. So even though Akili is the chair of the board, even though I am a board member, I'm the secretary treasurer, even though the incredible Zarita Jones, who is the chair of the LA Tenants Union chapter in our community, even though Kim Yergin, a retired realtor, and so many others, Malcolm Perry, Silver Negas, we are all part of this board, right? None of us have an individual ownership. None of us make any money off these deals. That's not what this is about. This is about saying this space that otherwise was going to fall into the hands of the speculator who was going to build a multi-story, like they're doing right down the street right now, a multi-story building that the community can't afford, that they don't talk to us about, at best come to us when the design's already done, is going to be a community-controlled spot that will forever, I'm talking about well beyond our lifetimes, be under community control. And so I got to shout out again, Venice Community Housing. We have had so many amazing people from our community who have connections to this organization. I like to say the leaders there are rarely among other community-based community development corporations. You will see them at City Hall when fighting the criminalization of the townhouse. You'll see them in our community fighting.
Congratulations, Damien Goodmon. We do have news and traffic right here. Hard stop at the bottom and the top, but we'll continue this conversation on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. SBS per broadcast. Fewer microaggressions per megawatt. KBLA Talk 1580.
We're talking with Damien Goodmon. He is the founder of Downtown Crenshaw. Their quest to buy the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall really got national attention and galvanized a lot of folks in their determination to do stuff to resist gentrification and to make sure that we're not always on the losing side of development and improvement of our communities. A LibertyEco system, the Community Land Trust, all part of the effort to buy the block, as Nipsey Hussle would say. And you were sharing with us the closing this week on the historic Total Experience site on 43rd Place and Crenshaw, that spot that burnt down, which will be reinvented as retail space and housing. I know that's not the only one in the pipeline. Is there any others where you want to share with us this morning?
Well, yeah, we're about to open up escrow literally today. The owner was Black-owned in Leimert Park Village. This will be our first acquisition in Leimert Park Village. We're opening escrow today for a second property at Leimert Park Village. Where again, this was a. And let me be clear on the total experience side. This has been a 9-10 month negotiation and process, and it's the culmination of a lot of hard work.
No doubt.
And for people who wonder, well, why can't you just buy, all these other things? No, we might have time if we can dive into that. You got to first have a willing seller, and a lot of folk who own Crenshaw Boulevard right now in other parts of Black America ain't trying to sell to us. Ain't trying to sell in general, but ain't trying to sell to us. And so this was a bit of a negotiation, just a bit. But even that small parcel, relative to some of the much bigger ones, is taking a considerable amount of time and attention from we've got 3 attorneys just on our side, 4 sets of attorneys in total just on the buyer's side. That it's taken in a couple rounds of negotiation. That's the nature of commercial real estate. But in another building that's in Leimert Park Village that we'll be acquiring, this is a willing Black seller who just wanted to make sure it went to someone who was going to do right by his existing tenants, right? And I think that's when we think about the people who bought long time ago, bought multifamily buildings, bought commercial properties in the Black community that were Black, that might have had just a little bit of extra money. I mean, this is back when you could get a fourplex for $200,000, right? They are trying to cash out. They're getting older. They're moving somewhere, and they often don't have an opportunity to sell to, or they don't feel they have an opportunity to sell to folk who are going to be as principled in their management of the building and management of the property as others are. So they end up selling to the speculator, end up selling to the gentrifier, who doesn't care about anything that we have had to struggle with in this community, anything that we ever struggled with as Black people in America. And so I'm just excited. We're in conversations over. We're going to open escrow on that one literally today, right after I'm on the phone, right after we end this beautiful interview. I'm running down there to open the escrow. And we have a couple other ones in the Leimert Park and Crenshaw community that we're negotiating, and it is taking a lot of time to negotiate them.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it. I mean, honestly, I've heard those stories over the years because I always, clutch my pearls. Why didn't we buy these Leimert Park properties where our galleries and our stores and such are? Why didn't we buy them years ago? If I could, get it together to buy my little house in South LA, then, why couldn't we do more? And I know, because I've heard from different folks who have tried it, that there are people that don't want to sell because they know the neighborhood's on the upswing and they want to be, they want to make money off it, or they don't want to sell to Black folks, or whatever the reason is. And I will share that when I bought my place, I bought it from a Black woman who went out of her way to make sure that she could do something I'm not going to share with you on the radio to help make it affordable, because she was committed to leaving her Black neighbors with a Black neighbor when she moved on.
Well, and I think, and that's what we kind of need to lift up, right? So let's be real. There are houses that are on the market right now that are haven't been rehabbed since the 1970s state, that are going for $1 million in Leimert Park. The number of Black people that can afford to buy that house is very slim. You're talking about 3% throughout the entirety of the city of Los Angeles, right? And when that house was $500,000, it was a much bigger percentage of Black people in LA that could buy it. When that house was $300,000, it was a much bigger person. So a lot of this is that the new red line, Dominique, is a price tag.
Right, we're being priced out, just like education, same thing, priced out. And honestly, when I talk about buying my home, it was 20 years ago, so the price tag was much lower.
But the big piece that you missed, I want to raise that though, but the big piece that you raised, which is that you had a seller who was willing to be patient and work with you. Right now, and this is what troubles me, and I love that we're talking about the homeowners because they get a little bit more agency than the renters in most regards, but most of our community, 60 to 65% of the community are renters. But a lot of the homeowners, it just takes time to knock on the door of your neighbors and say, hey, I'm thinking about selling this. Do you have a son, a nephew, a cousin who you think might be interested in taking not the all cash quick close offer because you want to get the most, but maybe you take just a little bit more time to be patient. And that's also on the realtors, sister. You know, we've dealt with some black realtors who wanted to advocate with us, and we got those buildings. And we've dealt with black realtors who didn't care, who wouldn't even talk to us. I'm like, do you know what we're doing? We're buying this house to make sure it's permanently affordable to the community so people who are black in this community can find space to live in it. Like, do you not want to work with us? Our money is green. We will match anyone else. You just got to talk to us. And frankly, again, this is what they've been doing. By they, not us. That's how these buildings came into the control of people who don't look like us. They work with each other. So there is absolutely a systemic element here. Harder for black people with the same income and credit score to get refied or mortgage. We don't have the same level of access to capital to move quickly. But there's also an individual component to all of this where a lot of people who have agency, not every one of them do. Some of the people are in trouble and they got to get out quickly. But a lot of people who have agency just aren't being patient. They're taking what's quick and easy.
Right. Or like you said, doing the word of mouth work, doing whatever needs to be done to keep the opportunity for community to stay in community. Well, congratulations on this. I think it's really the kind of stuff people need to hear about because it's encouraging and, belies what I sometimes tell my son, like, I don't care if I'm the last black old lady on the block. I'm gonna still be here with my house.
Yeah.
And so,
it's just something special we got.
Yeah.
It's just special, sister.
And
let's recognize that.
And it seems like there is momentum in this direction, like this thing about buying the block that Nipsey Hussle talked about, what you're doing. And I hear, others who probably don't want me to share what they're doing, but I do see some movement going on in terms of us buying this time around. So maybe we don't have to end up like Washington, D.C.
It was famously said the chocolate city's turned into the marshmallow city.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, it's because of these bigger things, right? We're in a very unique position, right? We raise a bit of philanthropic dollars. We have a level of community support. This is literally 25 years, 30 years now, since the uprising in 92 of community conversation and legitimacy and thinking about how we take control of our spaces and self-determination, take control of all elements of our life to just deal with that heavy hand of oppression that we deal with, right? This didn't happen overnight. I want people to recognize that. It took a lot of collective power, or the development of collective power and ingenuity and work for us to get to this point. And we're in a unique position, and we want to be sure that we're using the resources that we've raised, the future resources that we were raised in a very deliberate manner. We would buy it all and put it under community control if we could, but we can't. And so I think in general, not yet, but in general, we're still tiny fish in a big sea, sister. Right? The guys who bid less for our Crenshaw Mall than we bid. The guys who bid less for our Crenshaw Mall than we did and still got it, the individual is worth $18 billion.
Wow.
Richest man in the UK.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
and I want to talk about that. You said you were going to give us the skinny on the Russian oligarch. I also want to give people concrete ways they can get involved because it's not too late, and this is a great moment. If you're one of those people that doesn't just want to march, you want to do something else, you can get involved with this movement. We'll find out all about that as we come forward in our conversation with Damien Goodmon. It's KBLA Talk 1580, free the mic.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're talking with Damien Goodmon. Man, time flies when you're talking about interesting things. Damien Goodmon, of course, on the board of Downtown Crenshaw and one of the founders of it, along with the Community Land Trust. So before we move on to the how to help, we had a person call in who couldn't stay on the phone. She was anonymous. She wanted to know what's the bottom line with the mall. People still really concerned about the future of the mall, and this ties in with your what you were going to share with us about the oligarch situation.
Yeah, we're looking. I mean, so basically, this was as racist a process as you can imagine. The fact where black people offer more money, have the community support, and they still sell it to the not black team, white team that offered less money. This is just straight up. They might as well have put a racially restrictive covenant on the mall and said, black people, you're not allowed to buy this. And so we have a lawsuit that we've been working toward. It's taken just a couple much longer than we thought it would, but we're really dotting the T's. I always do that, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and making sure we got that piece. But at the same time, we're paying very close attention, I think everybody should, to how this global geopolitical issue between Russia and Ukraine might affect the current finances of the mall. I mean, we all, I think, because we made it very publicly well known, know that David Schwartzman is a completely unqualified, failed developer who's a racist and a sexist. But his financial interest behind the project, the persons who actually funded it was Lynn Blavatnik's Access Industries, a guy who literally, per the Putin list and other, they're called criminologists, came to his power by during the downfall of the USSR, engaging in all kind of really violent and nefarious acts to build his current wealth. And so we're looking at Biden. We're talking to Biden. We're saying, okay, you want to start seizing some Russian oligarch yachts? How about you go ahead and we take a look at what is this major black commercial real estate asset that is in the hands right now of a USSR born on Putin's list oligarch. So we're having those conversations. So I want people to know that fight is not over. It's far from over, and it's been in so many iterations just in my lifetime, the mall. And so we need to continue on that, but at the same time, we need to buy some other things around the community. We need to collectively build these worker-owned cooperatives. There's so much other stuff to be done at the same time. It is a both and. For
sure, but just to summarize, it sounds like there's two paths to possible ownership that are up right now. One is the lawsuit for the discrimination in the selling of the mall, and the other one is a possibility of maybe either the financing falls out or it could be seized as an asset of a Russian oligarch. Forget the yacht, it's the mall. Those are the two paths that you're hopeful about right now for still being able to move forward on the ownership of the Crenshaw Mall.
Those are the two paths I'm comfortable explaining publicly.
Okay.
We got 20 different routes to
right.
20 different routes to the owners.
So it ain't over until it's over. And when we continue the conversation, we'll talk about how you can get involved. It's pretty exciting. A lot of great stuff. It's nice to see some proactive stuff going on instead of always reacting to losses, racking up some W's here. Downtown Crenshaw and the Community Land Trust on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
And it is 56 minutes after the hour, which means we're just minutes away from Tavis Smiley doing his thing here on KBLA Talk 1580. We're talking with Damien Goodmon of Downtown Crenshaw and Community Land Trust, among other activist enterprises. Sounds like a contradiction in terms. But Damien Goodmon, how can people get involved?
Well, right now people can go to LibertyEcosystem.org or downtowncrenshaw.com and sign up to be part of this movement, be part of our efforts. We meet every week religiously, almost like as religious as the church, every Wednesday where we talk about these beautiful things and come together. And we're looking for people. We're looking for that ingenuity. We're looking for black contractors and architects and plumbers and electricians. We want everyone to kind of wrap their arms around this, but we're also looking for people who want to be part of this process of making people aware that there is now an alternative to selling your home, selling your apartment building, selling your commercial building to speculators. Also, I want to drop that we got a huge town hall that's taking place. It's a virtual national town hall meeting on gentrification. It's being led by IBW, Institute of the Black World 21st Century, where the host is none other than the incredible, esteemed, honorable Amiri Baraka, the mayor of the city of Newark. And so that's going to be online, and you can find that through Zoom, and you can find that link at ibw21.org. It is on King's Day of Sacrifice, and there will be national leaders. I have the pleasure of being part of the conversation. National leaders who are focused on this gentrification beast, how we tackle it, and how we build beloved communities instead. And so I'm hopeful that people will join this long-term movement, this effort for self-determination by, again, going to LibertyEcosystem.org and downtowncrenshaw.com, signing up, being part of the movement, and I'm hoping everyone joins us next Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific on King's Day of Sacrifice for this National Town Hall meeting on gentrification. And again, you can find that link at ibw21.org.
So that's 4 at 4. It's April 4th at 4 o'clock. Yeah, 4 at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
And as far as the LibertyEcosystem.org and the DowntownCrenshaw.com, people can check in there, tap in, sign up, become a member. But it sounds like you're looking for not just activists, but all kinds of creatives to get involved and continue to build this momentum towards truly buying the block. And Damien, I just want to commend you. You know, we agree, we disagree, and we continue the conversation, but you are one of the people that never stops doing, and I respect that so much because we cannot have momentum if we don't keep moving, keep doing, and keep investing in our own community.
Thank you, sister. You know, I appreciate you more than I can even articulate in words, and we're going to struggle together. Lots of people in our lives have talked about how we become stronger in the way in which we principally talk about or disagree. But quit acting like we don't agree about 95% of things.
Yeah, that is true. Damien Goodmon, thank you so much. Yeah, because you're a progressive, a real one, not a poser progressive. I'm going to end with this quote from Nipsey Hussle. He says, even as you make progress, you need the discipline to keep from backtracking and sabotaging the success as it's happening. I'm Dominique DiPrima. We've got news and traffic coming up next. After that, it will be Tavis Smiley with the full plate full of offerings for your day. I want to thank everyone who came out to our KBLA first annual women's brunch. We're going to do it again next year. Don't forget Maxine Waters on Friday for our daily deep dive. That should be an amazing conversation. I'm Dominique DiPrima. Until next time, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.